This video we're going to be talking about pruning summer flowering shrubs. Your primary summer flowering shrubs we have in North Carolina include abelia, which is glossy abelia, buddleia or butterfly bush, clethra, sometimes known as summer sweet, hibiscus syriacus althea, hydrangea paniculata, PG and tardiva hydrangeas, and we will feature those in the video, itea, sweet spire, Lagerstroemia, which are your crepe myrtles, and we'll also feature that one. Spirea, your summer flowering spireas. So watch as we prune these two flowering shrubs, your hydrangea paniculata and your Lagerstroemia. We'll actually be looking at a Lagerstroemia that's in a tree form. One of the summer flowering plants that we consider pruning in spring or late winter is going to be the panicle hydrangea paniculata, either paniculata grandiflora or paniculata tardiva. And so we think about this flowering plant as pruning it again in late winter. Usually if you're looking at pruning it in the eastern part of North Carolina, this might be in late February. As you move west, this could be as late as the end of March. So technically that might be considered as early spring. And keep in mind, summer flowering plants bloom on new wood. So we're going to prune out the old wood, and we'll actually cut into new wood and allow this plant to produce flowers on new wood that will come up from that old wood. And so we're pruning it gently back to branches, and this allows those new branches to come out and produce flowers. And I'm going to take out these old flowers in every case and remove them, and so that will allow this plant to look nicer and produce new flowers next year. Here's hydrangea tardiva that has been pruned back heavily, and it's be one of those summer flowering species or cultivars of hydrangea paniculata that has already been pruned back and the spent flowers removed, and this will allow it to produce new flowers in the summer. This is the same species of hydrangea paniculata tardiva. You notice it has not been pruned back, and we can actually do that. And you'll be doing very similar to what we've done with the one we just seen that had been pruned. And you basically are taking back those dead flowers back to a node or to a branch and cleaning it up to it's actually looks nice and will produce flowers this summer. Crepe myrtles are probably the most common of the summer flowering shrubs, and often many of the cultivars will become small trees, such as Lagerstroemia natchez, which is one of the hybrid crepe myrtles that tends to produce a lot of white flowers, and there are other cultivars that may be pink or red or purple. And this particular one is going to be more like a small tree. And so while pruning these is going to be very critical that you do not prune them in the fall, and they do flower on new wood as well as some of the other summer flowering plants. And so we would actually look at perhaps taking out dead branches in late winter, cross branches as we see here, and then look at some of the other branches and decide, is it a branch that we can take out successfully and get new flowering wood on the plant. Always making sure that you prune back to a node, and oftentimes we will clean up the plant in that format. Crepe myrtles tend to be pruned too heavily, and oftentimes we refer to that as crepe murder, where you're actually pruning back to stubs. And if I were to prune this one back right there, which I'm not going to, I would end up with a stub. And oftentimes those do produce flowers, but most of the time those flowers are weak and they may break off and cause more problems than they would have had you pruned the plant correctly. Notice again that this crepe myrtle is fairly tall. It's probably at least 20 foot tall already. And crepe myrtle, Lagerstroemia natchez, is known for its cinnamon red colored bark blended with a tan, and oftentimes will exceed 25, 30 feet tall. And so if you were to prune it to lower its height, that be a situation you want to read another publication that's actually attached to this particular video and article. This crepe myrtle is quite tall. You see lots of seed heads left on it from last year's flowers. Ideally, we could probably take all of those off. We'd need a bucket truck or a very, very long ladder, but that would be the place I would start cutting, and not cut this crepe myrtle back very heavily. However, it's really not necessary. The plant will actually produce flowers on new wood without making all of that drastic cuts. So here I am up in the tree, and I'll make a cut back to another branch, and in doing so, it actually will allow me to produce new wood as far as that goes. You notice how many branches are in here, and this is very difficult to do with one hand on the camera and one hand in a pair of pruners, but I will actually make a cut here at this particular branch, and you notice I left it clean, nice clean cut. And I'm going to make another cut back at this little branch. Another tool sometimes used to prune off those branches off at a higher location is going to be a pole pruner. And so I've got a pole pruner here that you can see, and it actually has a rope to pull down on to make those cuts. And so because of the necessity of having more than two hands, I'm not going to be able to show you how that's used with this particular video. Here's a crepe myrtle that's incorrectly pruned. It's also known as crepe murder. And this is the reason for not wanting to prune crepe myrtles or any other flowering shrub heavily. Quite often you'll end up with weak branches or weak flowers, and sometimes the plant will actually decline and ultimately die if you over prune it. So this is not a good idea, and obviously just a photograph, not something I would have done for the video as far as the pruning practices. So thanks for watching, and watch for future pruning videos.